73 times annual rent is the most lopsided rent versus buy signal in Greater Seattle. This countdown compares 5 Seattle area neighborhoods from Zillow's May 2026 $499,729 median to lakefront ratios to show where the math leans rent or buy. This is not a verdict, and it is not a mortgage calculator. Price to rent ignores interest rates, taxes, insurance, HOA dues, repairs, and the exact unit you find. But it is a clean first screen for comparing neighborhoods across Seattle and its suburbs. Number 5 is South Lake Union, Seattle's tech core answer to the rent or buy question. The median home value here sits at $499,729, while rents run about $2,252 a month. That lands near 18 times annual rent. The strongest buy signal. In plain English, owning and renting come unusually close here compared with the rest of the Seattle area examples we are about to hit. South Lake Union's math comes with a very specific setting, a dense condo-heavy market around offices, labs, apartment towers, Lake Union, and street-level restaurants. Walk Score rates the neighborhood at 94, so the day-to-day convenience is part of the value equation, not just the sticker price. The important catch is that a low ratio here does not mean detached house hunting. It means the purchase side is often a condo conversation, and HOA dues can change the final answer fast. What makes South Lake Union interesting is how different it feels from the usual Seattle home price story. A median just under $500,000 is not common in central Seattle, especially near major employment centers and the lake. But the rent side is also high, which is exactly why the ratio compresses. When both prices and rents are elevated, the buy versus rent gap can shrink, and South Lake Union is the clearest example of that compression. Number 4 is Belltown, and it is the closest cousin to South Lake Union. Belltown's median home value is $502,672, with rents near $2,254 a month. That works out to roughly 19 times annual rent, putting it right beside South Lake Union for some of the strongest buy math in Seattle. The neighborhood is downtown, vertical, and extremely walkable, with a walk score of 99. Belltown's setting matters because the price-to-rent ratio is really describing a condo market wrapped around downtown streets, waterfront access, restaurants, coffee shops, nightlife, and quick connections to Seattle Center and Pike Place Market. A buyer looking only at the median may see a surprisingly low entry point for central Seattle, but the building-by-building costs still matter. HOA dues, parking, assessments, and maintenance history can move the monthly cost well beyond the headline price. So, Belltown is a check-the-building-carefully buy signal, not a blanket instruction. The rent side is just as important here. Rents near $2,254 a month are high enough that the comparison starts to favor ownership sooner than many people expect. That is why Belltown ranks above many neighborhoods with more residential streets and higher home values. The ratio is not saying Belltown is cheap. It is saying the gap between paying rent and buying the median-priced home is narrower than in Seattle's more house-heavy areas. Number 3 is Seward Park, where the story flips from urban condo math to lakefront neighborhood math. Rents are about $1,831 a month among the lower rent figures, while the median home value is $1,165,214. That produces a price-to-rent ratio of roughly 53 times annual rent. Compared with South Lake Union and Belltown, the spreadsheet suddenly leans much more toward renting. Seward Park is shaped by its peninsula location, Lake Washington, tree-lined residential streets, and the large park that gives the neighborhood its name. The lower rent figure is what makes the ratio so striking. The cost to rent does not rise anywhere near as dramatically as the cost to buy. The median home value reflects a very different housing mix from the downtown condo markets. Here, the buy side is tied to land, lake proximity, and residential character, rather than a tower inventory. Walkability also changes the feel of the decision. Seward Park's walk score is 46, so daily errands may depend more on where the specific home or rental sits. That does not make the neighborhood better or worse. It just means the rent or buy screen is not only financial. A renter may be getting access to a lakefront peninsula at a monthly cost far below what the ownership math suggests, while a buyer is weighing a long-term asset in a high-price neighborhood. The key lesson from Seward Park is that low rent can actually make buying look tougher. That sounds backwards at first, because lower rent feels like a cost advantage overall. But price to rent is a ratio, and when rents stay relatively modest while home values cross the $1 million line, the ratio stretches. Seward Park is the first major warning that the same monthly rent number can look very different depending on the median purchase price sitting beside it. Number 2 is Montlake, where the ratio climbs again. The median home value is $1,445,444, and rents are around $2,087 a month. That puts Montlake near 58 times annual rent. Beside the Washington Park Arboretum, near the Montlake Cut, and close to major Seattle institutions, renting costs only a fraction of what buying the median home implies. Montlake's setting helps explain why the purchase side is so high. The neighborhood sits between water, parkland, and key connections across central Seattle, with residential streets that feel distinct from the denser apartment corridors nearby. Its walk score is 72, which suggests more day-to-day access than Seward Park, but still a different pattern from Belltown or South Lake Union. The ratio is not just about price. It is about the type of housing and location premium being priced into ownership. For renters, Montlake's number is eye-catching because the monthly median rent is not dramatically higher than the downtown examples. It is actually below the rents shown for South Lake Union and Belltown, while the home value is nearly 3 times their medians. That contrast is why Montlake lands so high in the rent-leaning half of the countdown. The rent check and the ownership check are telling 2 very different stories. For buyers, the ratio does not erase non-financial reasons someone may want to own in Montlake. It simply says the purchase needs a longer and more personal explanation than rent is expensive. Equity goals, time horizon, renovation plans, and mortgage terms all become central. As a first-pass screen, though, Montlake is a clear reminder that a beautiful, well-known location can produce a huge spread between renting access and buying ownership. Number 1 is Windermere, the most lopsided rent versus buy example here. The median home value is $1,903,164, while rents are near $2,159 a month. That puts the neighborhood at roughly 73 times annual rent. In this comparison, that is the clearest rent signal on the Seattle area board. Windermere's location along Lake Washington is central to the story. This is a residential, lake-oriented part of Northeast Seattle, with a home value profile that reflects land, setting, and waterfront area scarcity. The walk score is 29. So the pattern is much less about stepping out into dense retail blocks, and much more about residential streets and shoreline context. That lower walk score does not drive the ratio by itself, but it reinforces how different Windermere is from the condo-heavy neighborhoods at the bottom of the countdown. The rent number is what makes the gap feel almost unreal. At about $2,159 a month, Windermere's median rent is close to several other neighborhoods. The home value median, though, is the highest by a wide margin. When the purchase side jumps to nearly $1.9 million and the rent side stays in the low 2000s, the ratio explodes. This is also where the limitations of price to rent are most important. A specific rental may be nothing like a specific home for sale, and a lake-oriented property can differ hugely from another address nearby. Mortgage rates, taxes, upkeep, insurance, and opportunity cost are not included in the simple ratio. Still, as a screening tool, Windermere gives the most direct answer in this episode. The spreadsheet leans rent, unless ownership has reasons beyond the monthly math. That's South Lake Union, Belltown, Seward Park, Montlake, and Windermere. The takeaway: the same rent versus buy lens can point in opposite directions, just a few neighborhoods apart. Every number is sourced, with links in the description. Which neighborhood would have made your top 5? If this helped, tap like, subscribe, and tell me what Seattle area question to rank next.